Hello. Hello. I had some pretty strong reactions to this really simple video I did, just like healing with really high energy, you know. And so I just wanted to briefly talk about some Deeksha. I guess the term is thrown around, and I've probably said a lot of things about it before, and it's in there somewhere, you can find it. Videos about Deeksha. Oneness Deeksha, and apparently there's like a new wave of it coming out and all that kind of stuff, and I love that and everything, but a lot of people would tell me, oh, you gotta try it and all this kind of stuff. I really don't care. Because I mean, like, yeah, okay, you know, one comes out and then it gets, you know, it changes a lot of people's minds and lives and sense of spirituality, and gives people an interesting spiritual experience, and then it sort of gets like blended into the background, and it sort of becomes not as powerful, you know, or it seemingly becomes not as powerful. And then another one crops up, and then that gets integrated into the human experience, and then another one comes up, and then another one comes up, and then another one comes up. You know, it's fine. That's the way it's supposed to work. But you know, when people are like always like following these trends and things, I'm like, I don't care. I just like, you know, let me figure it out for myself. And like, there's certain things that come through that I experience are just as powerful, and I don't need to go find a guru. I have feelings about that. My personal experience of Deeksha, like when I first started channeling it, yeah, I would have these really strong experiences where, you know, everything would all of a sudden become like really spooky after using it, and then I'm melting into the table and I can't move and that kind of stuff. That doesn't happen anymore. And it's not because it's not as powerful, it's because I am integrating the experience. I have integrated the experience. And suddenly, that type of consciousness, oneness consciousness, being in a state of rapt oneness, or communication with the other, or with an other, or with an object, or whatever, is not so difficult to comprehend. It's like when you smoke pot for the first time. You know, your brain has all the receptors to get it right and to, you know, show you an experience. And you might not really experience something the first time, you keep doing it, and then all of a sudden you're kind of like blown away. At least I was if I ever smoked pot, like way back in the day. And I remember an experience once, like one of the first times I ever smoked pot, and like I'm like I had no idea what was going on. Like there was no way I could have driven a car. There was no way I could have found my way to my boyfriend's apartment at the time. I was looking for a piece of clothing in the back of my trunk for what felt like 2 hours. It was probably 30 seconds. But I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything in the back of my trunk. Maybe I should have turned on a light. I don't know. But it was like this crazy experience, and all this stuff was happening, and I could imagine that it felt so obvious to me. I felt like whoever were to look at me at that moment would just know. Like, it would be on my face, and all these things would be happening, you know, and it would be obvious. Not true. Not true. And then you get used to it. You know how to navigate that headspace. You know what's different. And it's never, ever, ever the same. I remember this one girl, and she was in college or whatever, and she's like, I'm taking a break. You know, I'm not going to smoke pot for like, you know, 6 months or something like that. I'm like, why? You know, what's the deal? You know, I thought you were a big old stoner. And she's like, well, it's just not the same anymore. It's just not the same. I really didn't talk to her about what happened afterwards, but I would venture to say it doesn't make a difference. I'd actually done that before. Quit for the better part of a year, and then started smoking again. And no, you don't go back to that original state. It's not a matter of, what's the word I'm looking for? Tolerance. Physical tolerance. Because it can get out of your system within 6 months. That's not what it is. It's mental pathways, and you learn how to navigate that psychic space. Okay? It's the same thing with Deeksha. It's the same thing with Reiki. It's the same thing with carving grooves in your mind with certain forms of meditation. You allow yourself to be open and bright and receptive to divine energy without necessarily trying to pull it or channel it or whatever. And then you meditate and you try to bring yourself into a certain relaxed state, or you concentrate on a certain object or whatever, and then you're creating a groove, an energetic groove in your head, and allowing that energy to run through that groove, just to trickle down into a certain groove and etch out that groove. And once that groove is etched out, then all of a sudden you can just find it very easily, and the experiences become seemingly not as intense, which is how in forms of traditional meditation like jhana meditation you progress upward. Once you've been in a certain incredible state or ecstatic state or enlightened state or whatever, meditative state, for a certain amount of time, once you've been there, all of a sudden it becomes dissatisfying. So you might reach a state of complete equanimity with the universe. You're so at peace with everything, the good, the bad, it's all there. It's just like rising and passing before you, and you let it go, and then finally you reach a state of seemingly, whatever you want to call it, nirvana, this jhanic state of equanimity, and you think you're never going to get tired of that state. You're going to stay there forever. You could stay there forever if you're lucky enough. You don't get tired, you don't get uncomfortable, your breathing doesn't get strained. You could stay there forever until one day you've integrated it so much that you have to move on. That's how it all works. And it's the same thing with Deeksha. Now, having said all that, I don't know what Deeksha is coming through right now. It doesn't matter. But I did a really interesting, well, I just did a simple thing. I was just like, I'm just gonna play some music and I'm just gonna do some healings and bring some energy through. And that was a video that I did just recently, and some people had some really strong reactions to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, well then I need to do some Deeksha, because I've been feeling a Deeksha current lately, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know if I should call it Deeksha anymore. It's crazy. But just felt like I should do some Deeksha. So here's some Deeksha. Whatever's coming through right now is much different than what I was getting before, but it started to get me to that state again where you just start laughing at everything because it's crazy. Yeah, never mind. Let's see if we can just go ahead.